All right, guys, so I'm going to go over the success starter. We are combining like terms. Notice that we have some exponents here and the distributive property. So hopefully you had out those notes in order to get this taken care of. So let's look at number one. It says, let's go ahead. We have 8d squared, and in parentheses, 6 minus y plus 5d squared outside of parentheses. So we need to do some distributive property. 8d squared times 6. That 8 times 6 gives us 48. All right. And then we have this d squared. 48 times d squared. All right. So now we need to put our subtraction symbol. Let's distribute to the next term. 8d squared times y will give us 8d squared y. All right, so now that we have completed this part, we've simplified that, we can go ahead and bring down the rest of our expression, and we have 5d squared. So this is where we can go ahead and start to combine like terms. So I am going to look at, and I see for my 48d squared is my first term. So notice I'm putting a little squiggly underline under it. And I have to find, so I'm looking for a d squared. The coefficient of 48 does not matter, but that d squared does matter. So let's look. This one has a d squared, but it also has a y, so that's not what I'm looking for. Let's look at the next one, 5d squared. Hey, looks like I found a winner. So I'm going to squiggly underline that as well. The only term I have left is minus 8d squared y. So I'm just going to put a double or triple underline there. So now it's time for me to combine these two terms that are alike. So I have, if I have 48 of the d squareds, and it tells me to add 5 more of them, all right? And this one, I don't want you guys to get like freaked out about this. When we have our d squareds, they are going to remain d squareds. But I need to add 5 to that 48. And that's going to get me a total of 53 d squareds. And remember, you can think about this as a d squared, or those could be glazed donuts. So I have 48 glazed donuts. And now I'm going to add 5 more glazed donuts to it. How many glazed donuts do I have left? 53 glazed donuts. So that 53 d squared is going into my summary for my final answer. But I'm not done yet because I still have this minus 8d squared y. All right. So now this is my final answer here for this first one. 53d squared minus 8d squared y. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the second one. Let's look at that number 2. And we have 36c minus c plus c minus c squared. So 36c minus c plus c minus c squared. All right, so let's say I have 36 chocolates, all right, because I have some terms that are alike. It's 36 c's alike. It's minus c alike. That plus c is alike. And then this one is the only term that is not alike. So let me deal with the ones that are alike first, okay? Let's deal with these that are alike first. 36c, so let's say I have 36 chocolates minus 1 chocolate. All right, I'm down to 35 chocolates. But then it tells me to add another chocolate. So now I'm back to 36 chocolates. And this did not have any terms that were alike, so now I am simply bringing this back down. So my final answer is 36c minus c squared. All right. So now let's look at the third one. The third one. All right, so we have 1 times, and in parentheses, s plus n, and then outside the parentheses, minus 2s plus 6n. All right, so let's go ahead, and you may be saying, wait, 1 out there. What do I do? All right, so this is why I wanted to present this type of situation. We're still going to distribute this 1. 1 times S gives me just 1S or S. Put my plus. All right, 1 times N gives me 1N or just an N. And now that I've simplified this, I can go on and bring down the rest of my expression. Okay, so now it's time for me to do the work of combining like terms. All right, so I have an S here. It doesn't have anything in front of it, so I know that it's a positive or plus S. And do I have another one with just S? I do, minus 2S. All right, next I have a plus N and a term like it is a plus 6N. So now I can bring these, all right, I can bring these next to each other, and I could go ahead and take care of making sure they are combined. But you may say, this is tricky because I have an S and I have minus 2S. So what this is, remember our number line. And I know it looks crazy, but you guys get the point. All right, so I am basically starting at one of these S's, and I'm going to subtract or go backwards 2 of them, okay? So let's make a jump. 1, 2 jumps. So I am at negative 1S. So when I say S minus 2S, I am left with negative S or negative 1S. All right. And now this plus N plus 6 more of them gives me 7N. So this is my final answer. You could write it in 2 ways. One, negative S plus 7N, or you could write it as 7N minus S. That's another way to write it. Because notice I just took this minus S and just put it over here. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Number 4, or our last one. All right, so we have 5M, and in the parentheses, that's so it's being multiplied by 4N minus 2G, and then outside plus 10MN. So let's go ahead. I see you distributed properly. Let's work on this first. 5M times 4N, that is 20MN. See, then we're subtracting. Now I'm going to say 5M times 2G, that's 10MG. So I'm done simplifying this part. So now I'm going to bring down this plus 10MN. So now I'm going to combine like terms. I'm going to identify them first. I have a 20MN for my first term, and this MG doesn't match, but this plus 10MN does. So if I have 20 of the MNs and I add 10 more, I have 30 MNs. And notice that this minus MG doesn't have a term like it. So I'm just dropping it into my final summary. So my answer here is 30 MN minus 10 MG. All right, guys, that's your success starter.